Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Good afternoon, Secretary of State. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Our other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of myenergi, I have the great honor to welcome you all today to Luxembourg for the Z-Plan Conference 2015. It is certainly a great pleasure to see so many well-respected energy experts gathered from across Europe and beyond. In Luxembourg, we often say that we are the green heart of Europe. And so it seems appropriate that everyone is here for what I hope is an exceptionally lively, engaging and constructive conference. I know I do not have to remind the eminent people in this room just how much depends on our work. Future generations will judge us on our efforts to transform Europe into a society that has fully embraced sustainable energy systems that save the world's resources. Here in the Grand Duchy, myenergi is the national structure for the promotion of a sustainable energy transition. And we are pleased to see the growing local public interest in this field. In addition to this event, Luxembourg will be hosting the informal meeting of ministers for energy that begins tomorrow. Therefore, this is an important week in which we can make significant progress in energy research and innovation strategy. As you can see, we have a packed agenda and we will be getting straight down to business from the outset when Dominique Ristori, Director General for Energy from the European Commission, will present the new integrated Z-Plan. This will be followed by a panel discussion that will look at the bigger picture of European energy research and innovation, while session 2 takes a wider view and will consider research and innovation globally. Tomorrow, our focus will be more granular, and we will discuss the 4 core priorities of the new integrated Z-Plan communication. We will be addressing technology, financing, the societal and regulatory challenges, the global competitive position of the European Union's industry, and the scope for synergies. The final session will be fully dedicated to the crucial issue of financing, and we will see presentations and discuss how we can best use available financial instruments. So, we have our work cut out. In the next couple of days, and there will be plenty of work. But there will also be time for some important networking, and I hope you will take the opportunity to meet up with your fellow professionals. Our hope is that this conference will help you to forge partnerships and create initiatives that promote innovation in our industry. Therefore, I invite you to make great use of the coffee breaks. This will be just outside the auditorium, where you can also find about 20 very innovative projects that are presented on posters. The owners of these projects will be on hand to tell you more. We would like to vote for the 3 posters you like best, and we will announce the winners tomorrow at the beginning of the closing session. You will find a display in the foyer area to perform these votes. Our staff is available anytime to answer your questions. You will also find useful information and contact details in the program brochure, which was handed to you at the registration desk. I kindly invite all delegates who have registered for the gala dinner and been confirmed only to gather in front of the building right after the last session today. Our staff will be awaiting for you to guide you to the gala dinner. It's just a 3-minute walk. One word according to the panel discussions. If you want to ask questions, please wait to be designed by the moderator, then switch on your microphone, ask your question, and switch off the microphone. This will avoid acoustic chaos. Just before we get underway, I would like to remind you to please switch off your mobile phones to silent, so we do not interrupt proceedings. Thank you once again on behalf of myenergi. I hope you enjoy the conference, and now I have great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister of Luxembourg, Xavier Bettel.
dear colleague from government, dear commissioner, dear director generals, mayors, experts, ladies and gentlemen. I have the difficult situation trying to have a speech just after lunch. Some of you would prefer to have a siesta. Some of you maybe have a monk of energy for the next half an hour. I hope as experts that you will be able to try at least to follow the greetings words I would love to have for you. It's an honor for us to be able to welcome you in the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Until the end of this year, Luxembourg holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union. And believe me, it's not the easiest one we had even after 11 ones we had before. We have the responsibility to steer the work of the 28 EU member states towards our common projects and objectives. The conference today and tomorrow addresses research and innovation in the energy field. Energy is a central nerve to our societies. It fuels industry and economies. It matters mobility, heating and food production, and most importantly, communication. Our way of living, our comfort, and our security all depend on energy. Our society's increasing needs for energy has resulted in a dependence on fossil fuels. Half of the energy sources used in the European Union is imported. Some 500 billion euros are drained out of the European economy every year just to pay the bill of oil and gas, instead of being invested in research, development, growth, and jobs inside Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, our society's dependence on fossil fuels is one of the main causes to global climate change. In December, heads of state and government from across the world will come to Paris to the COP21 meeting. The Luxembourg presidency is working hard with France as the host of the conference and all other parties involved towards the adoption of a binding global agreement that will lead all countries towards stronger actions against climate change. We know that for a lot of countries we speak regularly about fiscal dumping. We speak about social dumping, but we have also to know that it exists nowadays also in ecological dumping. And Europe has to be competitive also on that topic. We have to have ambitious goals, but we have to have them also in other parts of the world. The States, Asian countries, has also to move. And when I hear Obama's speech going in the right direction and direct the first reactions from the opposite parties in the House of Congress, I still believe that we have a long way to reach the goal we want. While political commitments are one side of the coin, implementations is the other one. It is the implementation of these commitments that offers a multitude of opportunities to us and to you, the European research and innovation community in the energy field. You have the capacity and the responsibility to provide our societies and economies with ever smarter and ever more cost-effective tools to implement this commitment in a positive, dynamic manner. The energy system of the future will have to be based on renewable energy, on energy efficiency, and on smart and flexible technologies. The energy transition, some talk about energy revolution, has already taken off across the globe. As much as the competition on who will be the world leaders in innovating technologies in the energy sector. This fundamental change of parameters offers the EU one of the most important growth and jobs potential for the next decades. At the conference today and tomorrow, you will discuss how we can improve the conditions for research and innovation in the energy field in the European Union, and how to bring its outputs closer to the markets and society. You will provide us with a snapshot of what is happening today in the key sectors and addresses the right questions. How to bring Europe back to its global industrial leadership in renewable technologies, a key priority of this Commission. How to implement the energy efficiency first principle, how to turn it into an even more competitive advantage for our energy-intense industries. How can citizens and consumers become real actors and investors in the energy system transformation? How can cities where most of the European population is concentrated, contribute to the system change, become a driving force while improving quality of life and developing the local economy. How can we finance this in an intelligent manner and establish a real and competitive economy that drives research and innovation? How can we bundle our lessons learned and our technological advances and bring them even more to the global markets? These are the many key questions, and I'm looking forward to your exchanges. There is also another aspect that today requires a special attention: the link between the energy and the digital world. In my capacity of Minister of Telecommunication and Media, I'm particularly sensitive to the general enabling role of digital technologies in other sectors like energy. The production, transport, and use of energy will increasingly be steered through smart, innovative technologies. This ranges from the energy system macro level to the household and individual citizen level, from the high-tech control center to smartphones. This field offers the right, fertile ground for creative companies, spurring innovation and economic growth. This is where SMEs, joint ventures between universities, research institutes, and companies, young independent brains aiming at moonshots, can work at their best, interact, and deliver. The synergies between innovative digital minds and creative ideas for speeding up the energy transition can together bring European leadership. I'm convinced that this field has the potential to offer us the next wave of groundbreaking societal changes, just like the access to the individual car in the 50s, or the large-scale take-up of home computers and mobile phones across the globe during the last decades. In the future world of the Internet of Things, where my fridge will cool my vegetables with just the right amount of energy compared to the room temperature, where the smart meter in my living room will turn on the heating at the right moment before I come home on a cold winter's day, energy applications will rely increasingly on digital infrastructure. That is why the link between energy and the digital world is crucial. I agree, there are challenges to this interconnection, to this multiplication of connected devices, this exponential growth of data which is generated. They relate, for instance, to cybersecurity and to the protection of privacy. These are topics in their own right that we will address at other events related to the digital single market under the Luxembourgish presidency. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I believe that all of you gathering here today are engaged in one of the most exciting future-oriented sectors of our times, a field that has the potential of truly changing the face of the European Union and the world. I wish you a fruitful conference. I would like to thank all the team who organized the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Please join me in personally thanking Prime Minister Xavier Bettel, who has to leave now, for his contribution to the conference once again. I would now like to welcome Carlos Moedas, European Commissioner for Research, Science and Innovation. Mr. Moedas, the scene is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much. Thank you to the Prime Minister. A special thanks to my friend, Secretary d'État Marc Hansen, for being here today. Also, just also acknowledge the presence here of the Honourable Member of the European Parliament, Claude Turmes, and all of you here today. I'm very happy to be in Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a country of innovation. By the way, I would like just to congratulate the Secretary of State that yesterday I saw the results of a new index, the Global Innovation Index, where Luxembourg ranks number 9 in 141 countries in the world. So congratulations for that. But let me start with a story. about innovation and about what we're going to discuss here today. If you actually had stood near the Copenhagen harbor almost 200 years ago, looking out at the ships beyond you, you would have seen the Caledonia. The Caledonia was an English-built steam vessel, Denmark's actually first steam ship. And you have actually spotted her anchored in the outer harbor. Danish sailors at the time rowed out to her, bringing her passengers from the shore. And the Caledonia was operated actually by the Danish mail services between Copenhagen and Kiel. She, the vessel, was a seaworthy and could have easily made it to the inner harbor to collect the passengers. But the Danish sailors were protesting about it. They had trained on sail ships. They had actually learned their profession among billowing sails and complex rigging. So they were afraid. They were afraid of the Caledonia that represented a threat to their livelihood and a danger to their lives. Of course, the Caledonia's steam power was not a threat to the Danish shipping. She brought with her the ability to sail against the wind. She was safer than sail ships, which required more dangerous manual labor, and the new skills needed to sail and maintain her were learned soon enough. And so the message here is actually for me twofold. The first is that history repeats itself. And if you think a little bit, you would find several examples of this story today. And the second is that whatever we do, we cannot stand in the way of progress. We can only really stop it for a little while, but we cannot stop progress. And so, in my opinion, good ideas really survive for three reasons. The first is that they are actually founded on improving the lives of others. The second is that if they will really create the opportunity for others to improve their own lives. And third, if there's really a tireless vision beyond them. So today, what I really want to talk about is what I'll call, and others called, a once-in-a-civilization opportunity. And I'm going to ask you to show the leadership and then to take it. The best way to recognize a good opportunity is actually to look back in time. And history has taught us the need for speed and scale and vision. And as I talk the Caledonia, if you think about it, the arrival of the widespread steam power in Europe during our rapid industrialization meant uninterrupted transport of freight and passengers. And soon enough, as cities expanded, there came the need for practical, reliable means of electrified transport and street lighting. So in the 1890s, Germany and Switzerland began sharing electricity from a new dam and a hydropower plant in the Upper Rhine. Thanks in part to private investment, the system then grew and in 1906 reached Alsace in France. That was the same year that the heating element of the electric toaster was invented. An invention that is far more remarkable than it actually sounds today. Because you know why, and the Prime Minister were talking just before on the Internet of Things. Because really this element of the electric toaster was the one that brought electricity into the households of each one of our grandparents and grand-grandparents. It was basically how to get it to the household, paving the way for everything you could imagine, from the fridges, the microwaves, the cleaners. And these were the decades that invented the future. Private companies and eventually governments made big investments in power grids because their vision was for nothing less than the rapid and permanent transformation of their nations into prosperous, leading, and modern societies. And they seized the opportunity. They actually capitalized on the pioneering spirit which spread discovery after discovery, invention after invention. So, ladies and gentlemen, energy research and innovation is and will be a priority of President Juncker. And earlier this month, he gave his State of the Union address at the European Parliament. And I'm going to just quote President Juncker in his words. He said, "This is not the time for business as usual. It is time for honesty. It is time to speak frankly about the big issues facing the European Union." So I'll be frank. An energy union based on a strategic approach to innovation could be an opportunity of the same scope and scale as the electrification was in the 19th century. And the question is, will we take it? Will we do it? And today I would like really to thank here the presence of the government of Luxembourg and my friend Mark Hansen, because there was a big emphasis from this presidency on the SET plan, and that's something I really want to acknowledge. And this puts us on the best possible footing at an important moment in developing the energy union. My colleague, Miguel Arias Cañete, will talk in detail tomorrow about the SET plan. But let me say a couple and few words today about it. As you know, research and innovation is one of the 5 essential dimensions of the EU's energy union strategy. The SET plan has to be an enabler of those ambitions. It must ensure innovation is at the center of the energy union. And the SET plan must be and must actually be put with renewed emphasis on boosting investment and open innovation and on bringing energy innovations to the market. It must take advantage of opportunities to blend the digital and the physical world. And it must be open to the world. And yes, there are many obstacles to overcome. Those of you here know them better than me. What we have to remember is that this is not just about energy. This is really actually to give Europe a future that we all deserve. And we need the same entrepreneurial pioneering spirit that connected 3 countries on the Upper Rhine 100 years ago and actually brought them into the modern age. So we need innovation to drive a resilient, sustainable, competitive energy union that reaches everything from market access to finance, to transport, to manufacturing. And then we need to sell our ideas to the world. We can only achieve all these with an holistic approach that starts with the energy research and innovation, where there is huge added value in working together at the European level. And it begins with reimagining everything. Will our tablets be solar-powered on a sunny day? Will our street lighting turn on as we pass by? Will our homes regulate their own temperature? And will our public transport adjust itself to the passenger numbers? So these questions reach all parts of our lives, all areas of policy making, all sectors of business, all aspects of our future. And we know we have the power to change how we use and think about energy. Our investments in renewable energy demonstrate that Europe's far-reaching influence in the world. The significant progress worldwide in recent decades can be put squarely down to Europe's leadership in climate change mitigation and our resounding commitment to investing in a low-carbon economy. So it is Europe who taught the world that energy is about more than just markets, more than just grids, and more than just the technology. Is about going further down, is about actually this merging between the physical and the digital world. But there is still a long road to travel. And I cannot stress enough how ambitious we have to be. Without ambition, like actually the engineers that furnish the first cities with electric lights or build the first solar-powered aircraft or raise the first dams for our hydropower plants, we will get nowhere in the fight against climate change. We will get nowhere in providing energy security, in making our European grid smarter and more sustainable, in being competitive in our economy here in Europe. So earlier, I said that I was here to ask you to show leadership. And the set plan needs to be a real motivator, a dynamic part of our energy union. The set plan must be known apart from the specialists. You have to communicate the set plan in a broader way to society. And so your input, your set plan discussions will feed into an integrated and comprehensive energy union and competitiveness strategy to be presented as part of the 2016 State of the Energy Union. It is time to be visionary. It is time to be vocal about the set plan. And we are well positioned in knowledge and industrial leadership, but we lag behind in terms of infrastructure and investment. It is our responsibility to future generations to find a better balance between long-term economic well-being and environmental sustainability. Therefore, we need to invest in research and innovation for the creation of future markets. Markets that we don't even know that they exist, which will provide the conditions for the 21st century jobs and growth. So, ladies and gentlemen, to use the words of Amory Lovins that I just started at the beginning, one of actually the inspirations of the Passive House movement, this is, and I quote, once in a civilization business opportunity. So it is my belief that this is also a once in a civilization research and innovation opportunity. Take it, embrace it with both of your arms. Use the unity and the ingenuity that makes Europe so unique. And you remember, in the beginning of my speech, I told you that I believe that there are three things that make a good idea survive and ultimately succeed. I believe the Energy Union actually meets all three. I believe the Energy Union intends to improve the lives of others. I believe it intends to give people the opportunity to improve their own lives. And there are a growing number of people working tirelessly to realize its vision. So European research and innovation and the SET plan have a vital role to play. Forget everything you see as an obstacle and start with a common vision. Make this the decade that invented the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moedas, for your welcome address. I would then like to welcome Mr. Claude Turmes, member of the European Parliament, for an introductory statement. Claude Thomas. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Wow, it's difficult to see you. You are in the dark, I'm in the light. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I was foreseen tomorrow, but some urgencies in the European Parliament will have to move me back to Brussels before coming back to Luxembourg tomorrow evening. So first, the good news is that we have this man now. Carlos made us to run the innovation and research policies in Europe. When I heard that it was an engineer which was selected to do it, I was already happy because I thought some chances that he will understand. But when I had my first half-an-hour meeting with him, I understood quickly that he is a system thinker. We need system thinkers. If you have one planet which will have 10 billion inhabitants, you need to understand that there is limits. You need to really anticipate these limits, and that's exactly about system thinking. And he is also believing in disruptive change. And that is what will very likely happen in the energy system. And I think it's not pure hazard that Elon Musk has been invited by the Luxembourgish presidency on Wednesday to speak to the ministers. Who has developed photovoltaics? Europe. Who has developed wind? Who has developed zero energy houses before even Amory Lovins? Europe. Who has developed, or who is leading the world on smart grids? It's us. Who has 6,000 cities who through the covenant of mayors are moving bottom up to change their cities on transport, on smart grids, on building catalyzing platforms with citizens, with businesses? Europe. Who is the political economic zone who has the far-reachest policies? Even before the energy union, we had very good directives on renewables, on energy efficiency, with binding targets, broken down to national, with cooperation mechanisms. So we have triggered the vision, and now, of course, we have to complete this vision. And that has been achieved, and I know there's a lot of people I know individually, so friends in this room, that's you who have helped us to do this. But, and that's good news for the planet, the world is moving. China is moving. China has installed this year 20 gigawatt of wind, 20 gigawatt of PV. I don't know any other economy who has laid down so many cables and lines. They are quicker than us on electric cars, and so on and so on. So this is good for the world because it brings down technology costs, but it's of course also a challenge to us as Europeans and our industry, and are we able to be up to this challenge? And what has happened on PV, where in only 3 years, China has completely overrun the European industry by, some would say, financial dumping, providing zero interest rate billions to German machinery to be built up in China. The Chinese, of course, when I talk to them, they say, sorry, we have a banking system which didn't speculate in the US housing market, so our bankers were able to give money to useful investitions and not didn't speculate and then went partially into big trouble. So China will be a real competitor. And I promise you, there's another continent who moves. That's the M&M continent. M being Musk and Elon Musk from Tesla, and M being the American military. You know about Musk. Be aware that Musk's imperium is largely built on Obama's grants and the grants from federal states. I'm really sorry that we have not been able over the last 2 years to get relevant money from national states or from EU states to build up the next generation of heterojunction. The people who know about it in their lab in Chambéry are in this room and in Fraunhofer. So 500 million bucks he got for his PV, and he got even more money for his battery. Where are we in Europe? So over the last 2 years, zero money from the European budget. So I can blame you because you were not in charge yet. So we need to move. And why do I mention military? Are you aware that Amory 11s is now working for the American military? And do you know why? What was the Achilles of the American army in Afghanistan? It was transport of diesel from a harbor in Pakistan through Waziristan and then through Afghanistan with Taliban snipers. The American army lost 1.2 soldiers per diesel transport. And the American army has decided that the army of the future is zero energy. So I repeat, the army of the future, at least the world's biggest army, will be zero energy. Do you remember Airbus versus Boeing? All those, also civil servants at Commission, will remember that Boeing was, in certain years, completely outcompeting Airbus by the military research, which wasn't declared anyway. So be aware that the American continent is also moving, and that raises also the question of state aid and how we deal with state aid in Europe. And I think that sometimes our friends from the DG Competition have to evolve to understand the new world we are in. So how can we take up the challenge? I would make quick 5 proposals. One is, and that is very much at the center of the new set plan, system integration. Individual technologies is good, but it's not sufficient. So we need to bring the different technologies closer, and of course to link them with customers, with the grid, and so on and so on. Second, merging the 2 big flagships, the ERA with the industrial initiatives, because I think the experience over the last 4 or 5 years has shown that if we would bring these people from governments, universities, and the industry even closer together, that helps, and I think that will be one of the key elements of the new set plan. 3, and you mentioned it, or I mentioned it, it's the issue of financing. We have the Juncker investment plan, where in the European Parliament we have made sure that the millions or billions which Mr. Juncker took from Mr. Moeda's budget, that there is at least some chance now that through the Juncker investment plan we will build up guarantee instruments also for the research area. So that is very important, and I think we need urgently more money for startups, which could, for example, be the question for if we have to go quick and big in certain areas like PV, heterojunction, or similar, then we need maybe also more money in that area. You mentioned, Commissioner, that the set plan needs status. I pretty much agree. But I'm not happy that the EU Commission itself has decided last week to publish a document which is very well written and then giving it a lower status than to the set plan in 2008. A Type C document which will not even be published in the official journal, I think is not the way to move forward. If we want member states which have 30% of the budget for research versus 10% of the EU budget, and if we want industry to converge, then I think the set plan needs to have highest political attention, and I hope that this error which was done last week can be corrected next year in a bigger communication, but then it needs also more status. 5 and last, energy transition, solving the climate problem, solving the problem of feeding 10 billion inhabitants, and so on and so on, cannot be solved by technology alone. So we need also what we call often a friendly environment for that. That friendly environment for energy, for the energy transition, that was largely financed through the Energy Intelligent Europe program. Graça Carvalho, who was my colleague in the European Parliament when we negotiated Horizon 2020, she's now, may I say it, the right hand of the commissioner in his cabinet. So we have made sure that the Energy Intelligent Europe and its spirit continues. What is the Energy Intelligent Europe program? What is it about? It is about saying that you can have the best PV technology if there is not a feed-in system, if there is not a good planning system, if there is not basically also the people who install it trained. You can have the best technology, it will stay on your shelf. So we need to continue to finance, also through the new Horizon 2020, programs which give answers to the following questions. How to design a power market in which, when the sun shines and the wind blows, the prices go below average. So when my investment turns, I get from the market almost no return. So how can I invest in such a market? So we need studies and people also thinking out of the box on this. If we have PV and batteries, which means self-consumption, what type of political regime, what type of grid regime, so that if I have millions of people moving out of the grid into PV, how do I finance the grid? So where are the concrete ideas to do this, and how can we do not national 28 different studies, but having people thinking out of the box on what kind of system we will design for this future. On the energy union, basically regional cooperation, so cooperation around the Baltic Sea, Southeast Europe, Central West Europe, Northeast. So we need to get more precise ideas how this governance system will function. Today, even at Commission, the best brains don't have an answer on how you break down targets to regional and you make it function. So we need also money for that. And the digital link, which the Prime Minister mentioned, and it's important. If we want consumers to embrace this new, better world, there must be trust. It's not Commission, it's not policymakers who build trust on internet and on IT and on smart meters. It's consumer organizations. So we need them to be all the time involved. So I'm not pleased at all that last week there were several calls which were exactly in that area, which were rejected for reasons which I can't follow. And I'm not pleased that in the upcoming working program of energy, this does not have the priority it has. You can do the best technology development if there is not system around. And you can have the best MIT, EIT whatsoever. Sometimes very good ideas are nurtured around a beer by people which may not have this kind of university or academic excellency. So we need to continue Energy Intelligent Europe. These people who sit here, I promise you, a lot of them have met and have created Europe and new ideas by sitting together in such type of conferences. So that's what I want to see achieved with the SET plan. We are still leading. I want us to continue to lead, of course for the sake of people all over the world, but also for the sake of jobs and growth in Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claude Turmes, for your introductory statement.